Good morning. How are you? That wasn't very overwhelming. How are you doing this morning? That's a little bit better. So thank you, Carol, and thank you for the kind words. But it is really a privilege to be here today and to just share some things. And while I don't have a horticulture or marketing degree, what I do like to take a lot of joy in doing is observation of what the consumers are doing and really what that consumer will be doing here in the future. And so the marketing sort of stuff started in my basement. Prior to that, Proven Winners was marketing plants to growers. And so that had evolved and actually came out of some colleagues in Germany and so forth, and then came over to California and grew from there. But really, marketing the brand of Proven Winners began in 2000 when I was hired. And so I'll share some of the things that we've got going on. But first, I wanted to clear up of who actually is or what is Proven Winners. And many people are really shocked that Proven Winners is a not-for-profit company. You see, there was never an intention for Proven Winners itself to actually make any money. All the dollars that are collected through the royalties and marketing has been to support the brand and to push it. And each of the members who own Proven Winners, and there are 3 U.S. propagators who own Proven Winners, they make profits themselves. And so they themselves are stable and can produce their profits. But the marketing dollars that are collected from each of the sales of the plants goes right to Proven Winners North America to promote the plants. So it's a very different model. We have 2 Canadian licensees. We've got a shrub and a perennial licensee that we've added in the last 10 years, 8 years with perennials. We're selling about 165 million plants just in North America. And then in Europe and in many other places, maybe 30, 35 million units in those places as well. We're unique in that we don't own any of our own breeding. We don't manufacture anything ourselves, Proven Winners. All of our genetics are gathered from breeders all over the country, all over the world, really. And so we collect our data and our plants from those folks. And then we do have partnerships throughout the world. And so in the UK, obviously with Curnock Plants, you'll hear from Bruce later. But in Japan and Germany and many parts of Europe, as well as South Africa, New Zealand, and Australia. And so it's increasingly becoming a worldwide brand. And in each of those territories, the brand is really managed individually in each of those areas. But we do a lot of collaboration with plant material and then share marketing ideas. And so we learn from each other on a lot of collaboration. So that's a little bit about Proven Winners. This is where we are located in North America. Proven Winners has 15 employees, and each of the purple dots represents where a Proven Winners employee is. There's only 5 people working out of my office, which is our headquarters. The owners of our company have never been to the headquarters of their own company. It's a different world. Half of the employees are probably working in their pajamas today. So the yellow dots are our licensees. The red dots are where our owners are located. And then the brown dots are our Canadian licensees. And so really we are spread across the country. We see each other 4 or 5 times a year. But really it's a virtual company. And that is definitely very different from most traditional businesses that are out there. But what do we know about gardening? And that's the question. You know, what do we know? And is it changing? So we know gardening is changing. We know the consumer is changing. And we know that our competition around us is also changing, and they're reacting based on various pieces of information that they're gathering. But are we changing? And more importantly, what is driving those decisions? Because the customer is changing. All those things we can agree that are probably happening. But why are we making decisions to change? Is it because we're being forced to do it? Is it because legislation is asking us to do that? Is it a gut feeling that we are making a change? Or are we really observing and understanding why change is occurring and not reacting to it, but rather instituting change and creating change ourselves? And that's what Proven Winners wants to be. We want to be one who's initiating change. We don't want to just react to it, and we want to be innovators to create change ourselves. But in order to do that, we have to take things into account. So one of the things is, how are you gathering preference data about our customers? And I say preference because a lot of people gather a lot of data. They know how old their customer is. They might know where they're located. They might know their sex, male or female. They may know how much they have purchased in a given year. But do we have any idea of what their preferences are? Do we make assumptions based on past history? Which is good, but it oftentimes isn't what we're going to do for the future. So about 2008, 2009, I started looking at some things, and there's a report put out there, and they said the 10 crucial consumer trends for 2010. I gave a presentation in 2009, and people laughed at me that these next trends I'll show really came from 2008 and 2009. So business as unusual. The world was turning. The U.S. was going through the middle of our worst recession. And things were changing. So business was not usual. It was a very unusual time to be doing business. We had an increasing number of people moving to urban areas. People thought, man, people are moving out of cities. But the trend in the last 7 years has been more people are moving to cities worldwide. That means our plant selections have to be different. We need a lot more shade plants than sun plants. We need a lot more drought-tolerant plants. We need more compact plants and not so vigorous plants. So how we talk with breeders definitely has been changing. Real-time reviews. We hardly book a hotel or a car or a vacation or buy a product without looking at reviews. And reviews have been critical in making decisions. We have this sense of fragmented luxury. It used to be businesses determine what luxury items were. And now it's a consumer saying, hey, I'll repurpose stuff, and I'll take barn wood and old scraps of stuff, and I'll make luxury myself. So you have a very fragmented sense of what luxury actually means. You have online lifestyles. Over 50% of people who are getting married right now have met online. So you have a very different lifestyle of what's actually happening, and they're sharing their content online all the time. So you've got that going. You've got people who are more concerned about easy, products that work well and are environmentally friendly. You've got tracking and alerting. There's barely a place that your phone won't tell you where you're at and how far you are from home and all sorts of things, and it's always giving you alerts. Well, 7 years ago, none of that really existed. Embedded generosity. We had our biggest thing going through in the States with giving money through online, through Red Cross for Haiti, for all sorts of disasters that have happened. And people thought that that was going to go away. But in response, technology has enabled giving to be much, much easier. Then last, profile mining. Man, if you look up one thing in Google or one thing on Amazon, the next 10 pages, you'll see that product moving through all your web pages in the future. And you see that in your cart and products that you've looked at. So profile mining, Google and those guys are doing that. Then anything goes online. There's more mature content online, more risque stuff online than ever before. And it's readily accessible. Standards for movies have changed. And so this is what was happening in 2008 and 2009. And most people were like, nah, that will take 5 years to come along, maybe 10 years to come along. When in actuality, most of these happened very, very quickly and are continuing now. So I wanted to say, hey, what is it this organization is saying for 2016? And today, actually, they are launching their report. If you look up Trend Watching, today it's being launched for 2017. And these are not trends that pertain to our industry, but these are trends that are pertaining to our future customer and our current customer. Because if we think our industry is going to be setting these trends, it usually doesn't happen that way. And so we really have to understand the trends that are being set by others because they impact us as we launch products. So this is one of their trend reports for 2016. So solopreneurs. There's this whole notion of entrepreneurship. Well, there's a whole new thing that's coming. And it's individuals who have no desire to build a company, but they do have a desire to be their own boss. And it's very easy with technology to just do it. I hire 12 people right now that are not Proven Winners employees, but 100% of their work is Proven Winners. whether it's photography, whether it's copywriting, whether it's design work, whatever it might be. And they are out there just creating content on behalf of proven winners. So there are experts out there. And so it's a very different business environment when you've got a lot of people who are coming through university who don't want to join a company. They want sole autonomy. And it's really difficult for companies to embrace that. And how do we employ those folks? How do we bring them into our businesses? Now isn't soon enough. I'll talk about that. Streaming kills cable. Mobile everything. Content in nanoseconds. Experience at the store as content and as something that we can actually use as content. Then subscriptions. There's hardly a person in the States who is younger who doesn't have a Netflix account. They don't have cable television. They're consuming data in different ways. They're not reading gardening magazines as much. And they're consuming things in different ways. There's over 3 million people who now receive a razor in the mail every single month. A razor. And now there's people receiving makeup through Birchbox. And so it's not that our stores aren't great all the time, but there is a convenience factor. And so the consumer is telling us some things. And if we aren't responding to these subtle things that they're doing, we may miss opportunities with working with those guys. But at the core of these things, as building a brand, the game has changed. It's no longer us saying what we're good at and what we want you to buy, but it's how our brand is being welcomed into their lives and into their feeds. Because we have to be engaged with them with social media. And before, people struggled, creating social media content and how do we do it and everything, which channel to choose. But the messaging has really changed to how do we get engaged? How do we use it? And it's a great place to listen. Customers don't hold things back on social media. Some things are good, some things are bad. But how do we use that information? So I'll share some of those things. But one of the things is Google has said, you know what, the whole internet is going to change. In the next 5 or 10 years, the entire internet is going to change. They predict in 5 years or so that people will no longer be typing in www.yourcompany.com or .net or .uk. That's just not how people are going to use the internet any longer. Search engines are going to demand that. And your phone and Siri and all the other ways that you can communicate, you can just talk and ask for things. And people aren't visiting websites. So people got really busy, in the past 20 years building robust websites. Well, the consumer is going beyond that. And it's hard to get people to a specific website now. And think about your own practices. When I break something at home, I was working with my garage door the other day. I didn't look up the manufacturer of who made my garage door. I had no interest in going to their website. I just asked Siri, hey, how do I fix a garage door and make my chain not rattle? And I just told Siri that. And they came up with a video on YouTube by somebody that had nothing to do with any garage door manufacturer. And they created content. And the same thing is happening with gardening. How do we get those people to get engaged with gardening content and learn? So, there are 3 main things that Google says that people will be using the internet for. One, they have an intent to learn something or to purchase something. Secondly, they have this sense of immediacy. It's right now. And this happens at my dinner table nearly every night. I've got 3 children, 15, 17, and nearly 20. And there's hardly a discussion that doesn't have of, well, who's right? And you don't pull out a book. You don't go to the encyclopedia to look this up. You ask Google. And they verify if your argument is right or whatever the case may be. And we want the information right now. So there's this sense of immediacy, and then there's this context. We have a rich sense of, hey, the world is becoming smaller, and we want to share things all the time. So I'll show this little video that Google put together about what a micro moment actually looks like.
grinding sound when you turn the key.
What Google is reminding us is if our industry is not right here, we're going to become increasingly invisible. I've heard all across the world, basically, that gardening is on a bit of a decline. It used to be the #1 leisure activity 15 years ago. It's now 4th or 5th or 6th in America alone. And if we aren't here, if we aren't developing inspirational content on how to use our products, rather than just the nitty-gritty details about our products, if we aren't inspiring people to how to use them, we will have some troubles. And that is what Proven Winners is up against every single day. Because there's new phones being launched, weekly. There's new technology being launched. But how are we inspiring people to use our products in an environment that is what they're all about, not what we just think that they are doing with our products? So we need to be everywhere. Proven Winners wants to be everywhere. Amount of people using websites, while ours has tripled, it takes a lot to get there, but they're using mobile devices. So is our information being displayed in a mobile way? In fact, 64% of the world's traffic now with internet happens from a mobile device. So how does your website look? How do your tools work? Can someone buy something very quickly? It's point and click, 2 clicks in a cart and done. So our industry has to keep moving in that direction as well. Skip the trip and 1-hour delivery. What is Amazon doing to meet the needs of this changing customer? And this is just the USA. Every single one of those cities is a place where someone can get 1-hour delivery. And I typed in the postal code here. And sure enough, you can get 1-hour delivery available in selected postcards for £7 and for 20, and you can get a minimum for a £20 order. And that was all over. I typed in a bunch of UK postal codes, and it's here as well. So their expectations are being dictated not by our industry, but what they're receiving in other industries and what they're doing. Here's what UK customers are saying. It took 18 minutes for my product to arrive. That's faster than Domino's Pizza. The Amazon Prime Now app for London is blowing my tiny mind. I'm living in the future. There's a whole group of people who are now getting, this high, this natural high from seeing an Amazon package on their porch every day when they come home. 10 years ago, we would have never thought. That's crazy. That just doesn't make sense. What's wrong with going to the store? And this convenience factor. Just experience the Amazon Prime Now. It's incredible. So you got this whole group of millions of people who are coming through and saying, you know what? Next week isn't satisfactory. It's great that you can tell me it's coming in 2 days, but what about in the next hour? So here's a little order. This is what it looks like in the US. This is from a mobile phone. You can buy all those different products. You can select within 1 hour. For the US, it's $8. And now you can actually tell them, leave it at my door. And businesses and condo buildings are being rebuilt so that there's a storage area and there's a one-time use code that the UPS guy can, the FedEx guy can plug it in and put your package in there. And it's a one-time code so you can pick up your package so you don't have to have it delivered at work. Because with an increasing audience who's moving to urban areas, if you deliver it to your front door, it's going to walk. Someone's going to steal it. That's why Volvo has developed their vehicle so you can give a one-time code to any delivery person and they can put it in the boot or the trunk of your car. And my mom, I told her about that and she like freaked out. Well, how do I know they didn't stay in my car? But again, that's my mom thinking. She thinks about security issues. So Volvo addressed that and said, hey, we're going to put a scanner within the car and your key fob will vibrate if there's someone in your car. Problem solved. So again, Volvo is making those changes not because they ever thought that their vehicle was going to be a delivery point for a package, but it's because the consumer is changing and they're saying, hey, can you help us meet a need? Give us a solution. So here's what Amazon is doing now. They're launching their own company because they were up against a brick wall. UPS, FedEx said, you know what, we have overnight delivery, that's fast enough. We can't imagine that anybody would be interested in receiving a product within a single hour or two. It's just overkill. There's no need for that. And they were dead wrong. And there are some things in our industry that we're up against. And it's going to take innovators who say, you know what, we're going to take the risk. We're going to look at this differently. There may be some micro trends happening. There may be some things that, you know, maybe 5% of your customers are saying, if you only did this, we'd buy more from you. And those are the hard things to do, the hard challenges to do. But I would encourage you, engage people who are thinking like that. Because what they're saying is, we like doing business with you, but you're not meeting all of our needs. How can we work together so that we can create something special? That's what Domino's has done in the States. I don't know if you have these vehicles here yet, but Domino's said, you know what? The number one complaint that we have about our product from our consumers is our pizza is cold when it gets home. So Domino's went out and asked all the car companies to build them a vehicle that had an oven in it. And all the car companies said, no way, we're not going to touch that. What if someone hits it, the car explodes, and there's an oven and a pizza on fire? So Domino's and their staff built their own cars, got them approved by the government, and they meet a different solution. Because up until now, Domino's entire history has been reliant on their employees delivering their pizza in their car. They've been doing this for decades. And there's things that we have been doing for decades that the consumer is saying, that doesn't make a lot of sense. You guys should change. Just because that's how you do it in production or just because that's how you've always done it doesn't mean that's the right way. And Domino's is the only company who's willing to change for pizza delivery. You see it happening here, Uber Eats. You know, there's all these small little companies, these small restaurants. And with an increasing urban area, they don't want to go out all the time. They want the food brought to them. So I know this was just launched here in London recently. September 28th this was launched. And how they want to take over and how they want to offer this service. So in the States, I'm looking at Uber to deliver products of our own. We know in New York, you can pay Uber $75 and they'll install a Christmas tree in your apartment building. Because it's a pain in the butt to do. What products are being done at garden centers that could be delivered by Uber? The number one product sold by HomeDepot.com right now in the gardening area is a bag of soil. One bag of soil. Went through 20 truckloads of bags of soils in the last few years. It's a consumer saying, hey, it's great that it's there, but it'd be really great if someone delivered it to me. I can't carry it up all the stairs. I've got a balcony. I've got a small garden. Can you help me with that? When you Google gardening in London, this is what I got last night. Pretty formal gardens. When you Google community gardens, you get something radically different. What are we doing for community gardens? Where's our industry? Our industry has largely not been involved with community gardens. They're small, they're patchwork, they're between buildings, they're not these grandiose plans. But people are trying everything they possibly can to engage in our industry. They've got hanging baskets of tomatoes. They're growing them in dumpsters. They've got, 60 barrel or 50 gallon barrels that they're growing plants in. People are struggling to always get those resources, but they're being resourceful, and they're looking online for lots of things. So gardening is looking different. When I also look at this, I see what is Proven Winners doing to meet the needs of the consumer. And I show this picture because 8 years ago, the picture on the right was our #1 selling container. And I said, you know what? I don't think that is the right size container for our customer. When I look through every single design magazine for women, I see tall candles. I see tall containers. I see narrow things. And when I look at a Starbucks coffee, I said, you know what? It's like a tall cup. And that container doesn't fit in her hand very well. So we had these two examples here. This was from our little tour yesterday. Female has a hard time getting her hand around this product. It's much easier here. And stylistically, she likes things that are taller than shorter. And there's a big difference between these two products. That's thinking differently about our industry. That's taking design cues that we see in everyday life because our customer is changing. And just because this is what we've always done and fits on all of our trolleys and fits our square footage and everything, doesn't mean that's the best solution. And in fact, now, the container on the right is our #1 selling container, and we can barely give the other one away. The consumer is changing. And this is all not based on production. This has nothing to do with anything that came from our industry. It was design. And understanding design and how design actually impacts how someone feels comfortable about holding your product. And Apple's done the same thing. Why did Steve Jobs develop this phone and the mouse? Because it had to feel comfortable in a human's hand. And our product has to do the exact same thing. And if it's cumbersome, they're just not going to pick it up. So we have to think about things differently. So in a year or so, we will no longer produce this container. It'll all be tall stuff. And it has to be looking smart for a customer. How the customer is doing. And I know GoToCar, I was looking up earlier, was pulled out of England here. And it was in Birmingham for sure. But the major trend here is a major trend in customers who are willing to share stuff versus owning things. You see, the American dream has always been own a house, own a car, and all those things, and own. But today's customer is very different. They don't seek to own a house. My kids tell me now that that is not one of their goals, to own a vehicle. They want to live in a city where they can share a bicycle. They can take a train to work. They may not buy a house until they're 45 years old. Who knows? Things are changing. So when you rent an apartment, they find your home. Who would have ever thought that an apartment would be a home in their mind? But their needs are very different. They're looking for parking and pools and fitness centers and close to work and laundry sites. The conveniences that a home offers, but maybe an apartment doesn't. So how they're positioning themselves is changing. And how we position our products to a customer who their yard is getting smaller. Their patio is smaller. They may only have a balcony. And if we position our products the same way as if they've got this whole yard to plant, they're going to be, you don't understand us. You don't get the size of my garden. You aren't relevant to me. I'm not going to shop at your place any longer if we aren't paying attention. So you got this tree of social media, because this is where they're learning. There's only 2 gardening magazines in the USA that have any subscribers over maybe 50,000. It's gone down dramatically. They're not coming into gardening seminars. They're not reading books. Subscriptions are going down. And while it's great in the trade, we have it, and it's great from B2B, the consumer is saying, you know what, that's a little bit hard for us. That's not exactly where we're at. There's great content being produced, and it largely serves a passionate gardener, which we do need to do. And there's millions of those folks. And so Print has relevance for that audience, but perhaps for a new customer they don't. And they're learning through social media. But they're also struggling with this notion.
Did you know the average person spends 4 years of his life looking down at his cell phone? Kinda ironic, ain't it? How these touch screens can make us lose touch. But it's no wonder in a world filled with iMacs, iPads, and iPhones, so many eyes, so many selfies, not enough us's and we's. See, technology has made us more selfish and separate than ever. Cause while it claims to connect us, connection has gotten no better. And let me express first, Mr. Zuckerberg, not to be rude, but you should reclassify Facebook to what it is, an anti-social network. Cause while we may have big friend lists, so many of us are friendless all alone. Cause friendships are more broken than the screens on our very phones. We sit at home on our computers measuring self-worth by numbers of followers and likes. Ignoring those who actually love us, it seems we'd rather write an angry post and talk to someone who might actually hug us. Am I bugging? You tell me, cause I asked a friend the other day, let's meet up face to face. They said, all right, what time you wanna Skype? I responded with OMG, SRS, and then a bunch of SMHs and realized, what about me? Do I not have the patience to have conversation without abbreviation? This is the generation of media overstimulation. Chats have been reduced to snaps. The news is 140 characters. Videos are 6 seconds at high speed. And you wonder why ADD is on the rise faster than 4G LTE. But get a load of this. Studies show the attention span of the average adult today is 1 second lower than that of a goldfish. So if you're one of the few people or aquatic animals that have yet to click off or close this video, congratulations. Let me finish by saying you do have a choice, yes. But this one, my friends, we cannot autocorrect. We must do it ourselves. Take control or be controlled, make a decision. Me? No longer do I want to spoil a precious moment by recording it with a phone. I'm just gonna keep them. I don't want to take a picture of all my meals anymore. I'm just gonna eat them. I don't want the new app, the new software, or the new update. And if I want to post an old photo, who says I have to wait until Thursday? I'm so tired of performing in the pageantry of vanity and conforming to this accepted form of digital insanity. Call me crazy, but I imagine a world where we smile when we have low batteries. Cause that'll mean we'll be one bar closer to humanity.
And that really is the promise of this plant. They're struggling to find relevance. The national parks in the U.S. are packed with people more than ever. People are wanting to go out and spend time in their garden. But they don't care that this isn't an enemy. They don't want to know how to care for this plant. But they want to surround themselves with beauty. And if we aren't positioning our product to meet their needs and meet the problems they're struggling with, and just saying, hey, we got 12 of these for $5.99, and don't tell them how to pair it with somebody else or something else. And if all the benefits are about this plant versus the benefits that this will bring to somebody, we become irrelevant and we're ignored. This helps people get closer to humanity. We have the right products to do that. And so when we talk with our customers, our garden centers, for instance, are struggling with how to create this content. So we put a whole suite of images and things and created all the content for them so that they can do this. Just like in the past we had a photo library. Now it's a social media library of all the things that can help the garden center. And because Facebook and all the social media has changed, the number of words that you put on there is being dictated by Facebook. We're creating that for them. And instead of putting it on a website and using Microsoft Office programs, because they're not using Microsoft Office, they're all using Google Docs. Again, that Microsoft Office, you owned it, you had a license. Google Docs is free and available to everybody, and it's collaborative. So why stick it in a Word program? So we launched an entire Google Drive, because that's where the younger generation is gathering all their stuff. They don't want to come to our website, but they use Google and Google Drive every single day. So we have to be relevant. We have to put our content in the right place, and the content has to be relevant for that customer to use it. So we've got it broken down into categories, combinations, and so forth. You know, macro shots of all of our plants so that a retailer can readily use this. A grower can readily put this content on any of their social media pages. Here's an example of one. You know, plant this and you get this. You know, a little yellow to brighten your day from Proven Winners. This is from a local garden center. Here's a garden center who actually took over their Facebook page and said, hey, this is what Proven Winners is promoting. That's their national combination. Here's their spring combination, another garden center putting this content out because they don't know how to do this. So we're creating the content for them and being a partner for them. Something else that is changing that really began back about 10, 12 years ago. I came here to England because England had the biggest business of mail order gardening in the world. Way bigger than anything in the States. And I really wanted to see what was happening, what was actually being shipped, how it was profitable, what was being shipped, how was their packaging done. So I did that 10, 12 years ago because our customers through our website said, hey, I can't find all your products. And only about 2% of the customers at that time were saying, I'm willing to buy plants online. So it took me about 5 or 6 years to develop some concepts, to develop packaging to do this and how to make it ship properly. So in 2011, we had a very meager start, you know, $50,000. 2012, 13, 14, 15, and now 16, we're going to be about $1 million worth of plants, retail-ready plants, not small little starts. Actual product, shipping this large a product or larger. Shrubs, full-grown shrubs, 3 feet tall, through the mail. And they're paying incredible prices for this. But no one else is willing to do this. None of the mail order companies, they're all struggling. But again, the consumer is saying, you know what? I don't want a small little plant. I want instant gratification. I want beauty. I can decorate with your plants. I'm a decorator, not a gardener. Do you have the right products for me? And they couldn't find that. And a garden center oftentimes was overwhelming. Too many choices for them. And they were delivering in 2 weeks. We're delivering in 2 days. We hope to be delivering in 2 hours with Amazon. But 10 years ago, the whole industry basically ignored this changing customer. So I asked, what is that 2 or 3 or 5% of that customer who has got a little bit of a niche? They're passionate about something. That they're saying, you know what? Do this, do this, do this, do this. I wish someone did this, did this, did this. And take off and invest in that area. And be willing to change. It's now going to be this $1 million business for us. That we started from scratch. I have one person doing this for me in my office. And I partnered with a local retailer, not a wholesale grower. Because a retailer knows what the product should look like as it goes out the door. This has been a huge opportunity for us. But what is next? What is that customer telling me now? Because I can't be satisfied with that amount of sales. Not that we need more sales, but I have to be in tune and listening to what they're asking us for now. What they're asking right now is through a company called Thumbtack. And Thumbtack is a small little upstart company who said there's millions of people saying, can you do my project for me? Consider it done. You just type in gardening. They make it easy and they hire the right professional and they come. So now about 2% of my customers are saying, can you plant those plants for me? It's not good enough that you just deliver them. Can you plant them for me? And it may be 10 years before we're able to fully do that on a large scale. but we're willing to change because our customer is going to change. And I do believe that baby boomer customer is going to get older. They're not going to get younger. Their hands are going to be tighter. It's going to be more painful. They don't want to carry stuff. An apartment dweller doesn't want to haul up all the soil and haul up the water and all the plants and the containers that they need. They want a company to just drop it off. Spring is here. We'll remove them in the fall, or we'll decorate them in the winter. Because we know that customers are moving to the cities. We know that the plants are changing. And if gardening is not going to change along with them, they'll find something else to spend their money on. So we ask customers all the time, what is their preference? So I'll give a show of hands. We sent this out to 350,000 customers and asked them, hey, tell us what the cover of our idea book should actually be. So I'm going to ask you guys for a show of hands. Design 1, 2, 3, or 4. Which one would you spend? I'm going to print about 700,000 copies of this. Which one would you put out there? So if design number 1 is what you like, raise your hand. Nobody? Design number 2. Nobody? Oh, one person over here. Design number 3. About a third. And design 4. Yeah. So we asked people. And again, we asked passionate people, passionate gardeners. And here's the data. You know, only 10% like the first one, 29% like the second one, 10% like the third one, and 51% like design 4. That was 70,000 people. But you know what? That was what passionate gardeners said. When I sent it out to millennials, of course, they like number 3, the deck and the patio. It's very different. But if you're not willing to ask your customer, then we oftentimes will make wrong decisions. I did the same thing with T-shirts and so forth, you know, and the little sayings. And this is a corporate message. A better garden starts with a better plant. Proven winners. We want them to think that. They saw right through that. We said dirty hands, dirty jeans, cleanse soul, build a sanctuary. 38%. But so many plants, so little time. That was a passionate gardener. So I have a T-shirt for passionate gardeners, and I have a shirt for someone who's looking for the sanctuary in their backyard. And we're doing things differently. But we're asking customers. Because all these people are voting. I'll skip through. I've got a couple more minutes. I want to skip through this. But we're listening. And every day people write things, and they write in comments. And so we actually look at the data. And I can look at every single word that the consumer writes to me. And neonicotinoids popped up in May of 2015. 223 people said neonicotinoids, and they're like, how did 223 people even spell it properly, let alone know what it was about? Well, they were blowing up our Facebook page and returning their plants and saying we're killing bees. But we're anal about collecting data and not making assumptions about our customer. So I have a bunch of people responding. You know, they want immediate responses. You know, 15,000 of those responses were done in the same day. How many of us return every single phone call or every single email? Every single day. We're strict about this. So I have a bunch of people doing this. But when I ask our industry, who is predominantly male and predominantly female who purchase our products, what the top colors are, it's staggering what most people say. You see, most men think a woman's favorite color is red. But it's not. When she tells us, it's purple. And then there's bicolors, and there's pinks, and reds is number 4, and blues and so forth. But what was more telling, her favorite color didn't change by her age group, her location, her demographic, or anything. The only time these have changed in 17 years of collecting data, over 2 million people have responded to this. The only thing that changed their color preference is when we were in the middle of a recession. And guess what came to the top? Any guesses? What color was her favorite color during the hardest times of her life when she didn't feel secure? What color? Close? Blue. And you saw companies, hotels, banks, all change their colors to blues. And now it's back to purple. She has more resources. And it's brighter purples. In the recession, she wanted muted colors and pastel colors. She didn't want to show off. So we have to keep asking the customer questions. We also know that she's struggling to make choices. So we've launched an entire program, the annual of the year, the perennial of the year, the landscape of the year, that all the trade press, the consumer press can rally around, and our garden centers can say, this plant you'll be successful with. And we've launched this program as something new. So I'll quickly go through just a couple slides here. When we look at design, this is one of the designs for a billboard that we had. And I asked 100,000 eyeballs, you can send it through a scanning service and see what 100,000 people actually look at. Because I wanted everybody to look at our white container and our logo and read our company name. And when I scanned them through, they didn't even see our white container. They ignored it. 100,000 people. I wasted $1 million had I run this. And what were they staring at? The middle of a flower. It was irrelevant to the customer. And had I not reran this and put our Proven Winners logo right in the center, I would have missed out. But when I ran this, the question was, who in the heck is Proven Winners? You're putting billboards out there and people don't know who you guys are. So I looked at Coca-Cola. And what does Coca-Cola add to almost all their advertisements? And what are they showing? Someone drinking it. And they have to tell all their customers to drink Coca-Cola. What else are you supposed to do with it? Plant Proven Winners. Again, some of this is so stinking simple. But sometimes we're so close to this industry, so passionate for it, that we miss out what the consumer is actually doing. And a new customer doesn't know to plant Proven Winners. Because I get pictures from customers who have actually put this container in the ground and then wonder why it died. Or they put it on their table and they don't water it. And I'm saying, well, did you plant it outside? Did you put it out? No, I didn't know I had to do that. Oh, I had to put it outside? You see, we have a customer who is no longer a generational gardener. They're 2 generations removed from someone who they know, who they lived with, who has a garden. And they say, we just want to decorate with their product. It's gorgeous. So we have to be looking. So I hired somebody. I've got no time to go through. We've got 100 million people who are watching her videos now. But what are we doing to meet the needs of the changing consumer? Because she is changing. This is her. These are the things that she's aspiring to. But more importantly, how are we actively collecting information about her to not just help us make decisions that we want to make, but help put inspiration in her hands, because she's increasingly confused about what to do with our products. And there's a lot to be learned. She's telling us, if only we're willing to listen. So thank you guys for listening.